Yesterday on Twitter, I released this image, which is Bitcoin Dominance on the daily chart. And this chart stems back all the way to December of 2022. And we have had an uptrend since then. Bitcoin has now broken this over 1 year long trend line for Bitcoin Dominance. And this means that altcoins may begin to get more volume. Ethereum is going to have its moment in the sun. You just got to be willing to wait. And I'm willing to bet that a lot of the Solana avalanche gains will be flowing into Ethereum very soon. And what we're looking for Ethereum is from high to low using the fibs. About 2,500 is the 1618. And when you take a look at the total three, this is everything excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. This is the market cap of everything else. We are currently sitting in a setup here that is strikingly similar to 2020, this setup before we had a major, massive altcoin run. I think we're probably going to be seeing a lot more consolidation for the altcoins, rather than just a straight line. So don't expect exactly the same thing, but generally speaking, what we do see is that the altcoins getting above that resistance, just like 2020 right now. So this is at least a sign that the macro trend for altcoins is starting to turn towards the bullish side. And when I look at the dominance chart, I think, okay, we've broken the trend line, and that is a sign that we could see a trend down for dominance. But in order for something to be a trend, you need lower lows and lower highs. So one lower low, one lower high. Is that a trend? Maybe, but it's not totally confirmed. What I would like to see is maybe a bounce for dominance and a rejection on the previous support line as new resistance. And then we can say we have multiple lower highs and then multiple lower lows. And then it becomes more likely a trend that should continue. So that's what I'm waiting for here on dominance. And something else that I'm sure most people are curious about is the relationship for Bitcoin and the altcoins. If we take a look at the total three and just overlay it on the Bitcoin chart, it's kind of interesting to see how this works, because a lot of people think that alt season happens when Bitcoin goes down and then the altcoins go up against Bitcoin. And that's really not how it goes. It's a little bit more of a dance than it's not an inverse correlation. Bitcoin has to be performing well for altcoins to perform well, right? That is, you can't have one or the other. Just look at the chart. I mean, it's always lining up with each other. If you go back in time, you just look at the daily chart. This is the COVID crash up to the 65K top. And if you will just look close, what you'll notice is that when Bitcoin comes down, altcoins also come down. And when Bitcoin regains momentum, altcoins have even bigger dips. But they are both maintaining sort of a weekly correlation. Now, what you'll see is that when Bitcoin settles up, right? This is just a consolidation. We hit a low and we kind of just hit that low repeatedly. We consolidate in this range in early 2021, around that 40K level. Lower highs for Bitcoin, higher highs for altcoins. But look at this. When Bitcoin comes down, altcoins come down. When Bitcoin bounces, altcoins bounce. When Bitcoin comes down, altcoins come down. When Bitcoin bounces, altcoins bounce. But the prevailing structure for the alts was higher lows, higher highs, while the prevailing structure for Bitcoin was lower highs, sort of flat lows. But you can see that the bounces are where the altcoins really get the momentum, right? So if Bitcoin's kind of just going sideways, they're going to go down and up with Bitcoin. But once Bitcoin bounces, then the alts really start to get away and sort of outperform Bitcoin. If you just continue here, you'll see that they are following each other. That is pretty clear. But when the altcoins hit their highest point in the cycle, right? So here, Bitcoin's hitting a lower high. Altcoins are hitting higher highs. So what you're seeing is that when the altcoins bounce to their highest high right here, that only happens because Bitcoin bounces and allows it to happen. And they get a lot of velocity. So a lot of people misunderstand the relationship between altcoins and Bitcoin. Bitcoin needs to perform well for altcoins to do well. It's just that the altcoins benefit more based on sideways action from Bitcoin with stability, right? And on these bounces, that's where you get those higher lows for the altcoins as they push up. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. Let's go to where we are right now with the total three in Bitcoin comparison. See, what you have now is Bitcoin seeing slightly lower highs, but the altcoins, the total three, is seeing a much higher high, the orange line, much higher high against Bitcoin. It's not happening unless Bitcoin bounces. So Bitcoin goes sideways, and after Bitcoin goes sideways, Bitcoin sees this bounce right here, off of that Bitcoin bounce right there, then the altcoins rip really quickly to the upside to a new high. So in order for alt season to take place, what you need is a general macro uptrend. And then in the more medium term, you need more sideways action from Bitcoin. And then the very short term, you need nice bounces coming from Bitcoin. And when Bitcoin provides those bounces, that's where you start to see the altcoins really shine, right? That's sort of how you fuel the momentum for altcoins and fuel the momentum for alt season. And something else to keep in mind besides just the higher lows is the RSI. The RSI has been holding our, 53 level or so on the daily chart. And you can see that every time we get these higher lows, we're bouncing right off of the 53 level, the recent RSI support. So we just continue to bounce right off of that support. So we have the flat RSI support and the RSI downtrend. So now that we're bouncing here, if Bitcoin breaks this resistance line, the target for me is not necessarily going to be a specific price. It's going to be the RSI resistance. The RSI structure is very important. So if the price comes up, we break out, I'd be looking for resistance along that downtrend line, right? Because that may be more so where Bitcoin finds its next correction early 2024. I could see that happening where we hit a high and then we bounce up, hit an even higher high with a lower high on the RSI, and we start to get bearish divergence and then push below this support early 2024 to reset the RSI before going on another major explosive bullish trend. There's always going to be intermediate corrections at some point, right? You can't just expect, a straight line. So if we bounce here, I'm looking for a test of the RSI resistance. That is the target. I don't know for sure what the price is going to be, but I will be looking at that RSI for the target around right here, just above the overbought zone at about 73.74. So that could send us up towards the 48,000 level, maybe as high as 52,000, which is the falling wedge breakout target. That is what I'm eyeing up right now. And going over to the Kraken Pro chart, if we do start to come down at some point, whether we go up and hit that RSI target or, let's say something comes up, a major negative event, and we start to actually push down, I'd be looking for about 38,000, the previous resistance, as new support, and then look to bounce. All in all, I'm generally still bullish, right? This is really buy the dip season. It's never a good idea to sell Bitcoin 4 months before the halving. Every dip before the halving historically has just been a buy zone. And overall, for now, the trend is our friend until the trend ends. So we're probably going to break out again. Most likely, Bitcoin will regain dominance. Dominance comes up, hits a lower high, and then we start to see a really, really big altcoin spring. So hang in there, guys. We're going to be tracking all of this and more on this channel. Like and subscribe. Sign up for Kraken Pro below. There is a tutorial on this channel on how to use Kraken Pro. And if you guys want to see what altcoins I am buying, be sure to join the Patreon, join the Discord, get in the community, and get all of the more exclusive content in there. Links are below. I'll see you guys in the next video.